Welcome to the WEInvested podcast, where we teach you how to save and make more cash. Today on the WEInvested podcast, we have Melissa Burkheimer, and she is a conversion designer and launch strategist. She is also the founder and CEO of Melissa Burkheimer Studios and the creator of the Design Business Show. Melissa, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get started, can you let the people know where they can find you on social media?
So you can find me. I'm mainly the most active on Instagram, and my name over there is just Melissa Burkheimer. Last name is Burkhemer. And I'm on all the other platforms too, but I'm the most active on Instagram.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. What is Melissa Burkheimer Studios, and how did you get your start?
Melissa Burkheimer Studios is a virtual sales page design agency. And I got my start by going to in-person networking events back in 2011 and handing out business cards and praying that people would pay me to work for them. So after a couple of years into it, I started getting like local clients. So I worked with like a taxi company, a yoga studio, a credit union, and I did all kinds of production design work for them. And then in 2012, I started buying online courses. And then a year and a half or so later, I ended up becoming the sales page designer for a really popular course that I had bought. And from there, like my experience went from just like little freelance designer to someone who was then working on launches as a launch manager and a sales page designer and a strategist, managing teams from all over the world. And, I've designed sales pages that have helped my clients create a lot of impact in the world and their business and in their teams' lives, and teams have expanded, customer lists have grown. And today I design sales pages on a very limited basis for my clients. And I also sell digital programs and mentorship courses for people to join if they want to learn how to grow their business or do something similar to what I'm doing.
Man, it sounds like you have a very rich history and a very rich background. Like you do a lot.
Kind of, yeah. But I'm very focused on like the conversion side of things, on the design side. So I feel like that's specific enough for my taste.
For sure. So were you always interested in design, like since you were younger, or is this something that kind of just blossomed?
When I wanted to go to school for journalism because I was on the high school newspaper, and like I never even like put thought into college. Like my college and my high school share a football field, like that's how close they are. And so I wanted to go to school for journalism, but then I found out they had a degree called graphic journalism, and I just switched without really even knowing what graphic design was. And so I kind of fell in love with it, but I didn't feel like I was like the artsy type because I don't know. I just didn't kind of felt like I belonged because half my classes were journalism, half of them were design. And so after I graduated, I had two small kids and I wasn't really interested in working a bunch of hours. So I just kind of stayed at the job I was at. It was a business role, but it wasn't in design. And I wanted to start my business doing something creative because auditing trash bills wasn't the most exciting job in the world. It wasn't bad, but I had flexible scheduling. And with small kids at home, that was, a good thing to have. So I really love design, but I love now having the conversation about how design really does make an impact in your business, for your bottom line, for your, when people are exposed to you, and like all the things.
Okay, nice. So what is your definition of a conversion designer?
My definition of a conversion designer would be someone who is working on design, but they're helping someone get an action accomplished. So the action could be the user is going to buy something, they're going to book a call, they're going to opt in to get your freebie, or they're going to opt in to get a discount. And someone who is involved in the design portion of those things, in my opinion, is a conversion designer.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit more about your virtual program, Conversion Design School?
Yeah, so Conversion Design School was something that I created just over a year ago, actually. to show people what conversion design was. And what had happened was, my son always says I will, so I'm just repeating his words, but never mind. What happened was I was on a podcast and the whole episode ended up being about conversion design. And I was like, this is like really interesting. People are starting to ask me more questions. So I wanted to create a program that talked about the design side of launching, because I could build you a really awesome sales page, but if you didn't have an offer that had already converted, or if you didn't have copy that matched the design, or if you didn't know what a launch was, or you had no audience, like learning conversion design is a great skill, but unless you're working for a company who understands that and values it, a lot of, this is kind of a newer modern thing. Some companies aren't quite there yet. Then learning conversion design wouldn't really help you. So I show you how to use conversion design throughout a launch, how to write your sales page copy, and how to use design throughout the whole launch, and also know how to measure your data so you know what to do the next time you have a launch.
For sure. And measuring data is definitely an important piece of business, and it's something that I'm still learning myself. But as I keep going, I just see the importance of it and how necessary it is to understand your data.
Yes, it is necessary. And I'll just say that numbers are not my favorite thing, but I like to know, okay, I have this opt-in, I have a sales page Trello board, for example. That's my quote unquote free opt-in. And I know that my opt-in page is working because 60% of the people who go to that page sign up. So I'm a big fan of once you get the numbers to where that you want them to be, just leaving things alone.
For sure. So how was the Design Business Show created? And how did it feel when you won the best podcast of the 2019 Social Media Club Hashy Awards?
Well, it felt really good to win the award. I was honestly really surprised that I won. Because my friend had said, you should submit your podcast. And I was like, yeah, you're funny. I'm not going to win because I'm just this little podcast host from Des Moines. But I started the podcast because I wanted to give design a voice. And I wanted to give designers a voice who would be like me, who didn't really feel like they ever fit in. Historically, it's a very male dominated industry. I feel like social media and the online world has kind of changed that for the better. But for me, it was really important to be able to tell the stories of so many designers out there, because like you said, I want to show how this person did it, because this person started this way, but then they took a completely different path. And if you can relate to one thing in each episode, then I know that I've done my job.
Exactly. And do you like podcasting? Is it fun for you?
I like podcasting. I'm really ready to, I really love how having a podcast kind of gives you your own little platform on the internet. I'm not supposed to say this. My business coach will get mad at me, but it still feels like it's just this little thing that's not really real. I just kind of put the episodes out there, but it's also nice to be able to have the creative control and to not put something out there if I don't feel like it's appropriate, or if I feel like it's offensive, or it's going to, not actually do good in the world. I haven't had to do that yet, but I like having a podcast. It's a lot of admin work, but I'm getting ready to outsource all of that. So
nice. Okay, so kind of looking through your website, in earlier in the interview, you mentioned about sales pages. So what is a sales page, and then what's the importance of having a great sales page?
Yeah. So a sales page, I like to compare a sales page to an infomercial. I used to watch them all the time as a kid. My mom always watched the jewelry infomercials, but she never bought any jewelry from there. But when I first started to buy to buy courses and programs from people, a sales page to me felt like an infomercial. It's like if you took all of the copy and all of the photography and the still shots and everything that they were doing, and putting that on a really long form website. So a sales page and a landing page are similar, except for a sales page, the goal is to get a sale, and a landing page, usually the goal is to get some kind of someone to take an action, like an opt-in or booking a call or signing up for text alerts or something. So a sales page really just essentially helps you sell your offers online.
For sure. And so how can designers stand out and grow their business?
Designers can stand out and grow their business by actually showing up online or wherever their audience is. They can create a unique proposition, or a unique what's the word I'm thinking of it? Like an offer proposition. So are you think of beyond like, okay, I help someone look good. I help them create brands that make money. I help my clients design Instagram feeds that actually get people to click and buy. So get really specific on like who you serve and who you help and what the end result is that you provide for them.
For sure. And on your website, you kind of talk about the importance of systems and processes. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on exactly what systems and processes are?
Yeah, so systems and processes are basically like the SOP for your business. So like, let's say I'm going to have someone publish my podcast episode. I record the episode, then I upload it to Google Drive. Actually, that's done automatically. I don't do it anymore. My virtual assistant will then edit the podcast. They'll add in any commercials, edit out like some of my ums and things like that. Then my show notes writer will write the show notes. I will proofread everything, get the show notes to the virtual assistant, and then the virtual assistant puts it into WordPress and Libsyn, and then I double check everything again, and then the podcast goes live. So that's kind of in a nutshell my SOP, standard operating procedure for publishing a podcast episode. So if you have all of these things documented, especially your tech tasks, then you can hire anyone off of the, not that you want to hire people off the street, but you can hire anyone and hand them the process, and then they can execute the tasks so you can focus on bigger picture things. And I didn't really understand the need or importance of systems and processes until I became a launch manager. And that was when I also learned that I'm really good at making processes. So I like to joke that I'm like, there's two people in the world, the people who would want to put together the Legos and the person who would want to write the Lego instruction manual. I'm the one who would want to write the manual and not put the Legos together. Okay, so it just helps you save time in your business with everything that you have to get done.
So it's kind of like you're wearing a project management hat too at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of run everything like with project management because, I used to think that not everybody, I realized like as a grown up and being a launch manager that not everybody wants to plan their whole life on a Friday night. Apparently they don't. I do. But that's because I just kind of approach everything with my project management brain.
For sure. And so would you say you have more of a project management brain or more of a design creative brain?
I mean, I'm going to say it's like 50-50 because I can't help the organizational ways, but the design is what I'm passionate about. So it's a nice blend, especially like I've worked with a lot of different people with different backgrounds in the online space, and most of the time they're not complimenting me on the actual design. They're complimenting me about the experience because I have actually thought out the whole process. It's not like I'm just kind of winging it over here and we're going to do this maybe over 4 weeks. No, there's a really specific structure to everything that I do in my business, and I'm consistently wanting to update those structures and make them even more streamlined.
Okay, so I can just assume that having processes and systems in place plays a very big role, especially being a mom and running a business. So how is it juggling those two jobs?
Frankly, I've been really lucky in the sense of I started the business when my kids were in school, so I would drive them to and from school every day. However, every evening and weekend we were in sporting activities. So now everyone's home. We're recording this during the pandemic, and everyone's homeschooled. Well, I only have one child who's still in school. The other one graduated last year, and he's 14, so he can kind of manage it on his own. So, I liked actually having the structure of working during the day and then going to do kid activities, like baseball practice, football practice, games, like you name it, I was there. I liked having the structures because it forced me to not work all the time. Now I find myself with extra time, so I just want to work because it's my passion. But it hasn't, luckily I've had a lot of support. I have a husband who's supportive, and I've had to help around the house, and it hasn't been too bad for me.
Is it difficult to set like those boundaries for yourself, to tell yourself like, okay, now it's time to stop working and switch modes?
Ever since the pandemic started, yeah.
Okay. And so I was doing my research online, before this interview started, and I see that you have a great online presence, from a great website to great social media to great podcast promoting. So how has social media impacted the growth of your business?
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say, by the way. I would say that social media is a really great tool for creating connections. And I'm going to honestly say that I don't spend a lot of time on social media because I'm very easily distracted. So I really love like Instagram, for example, because like I don't have a ton of followers, but I have a lot of engagement in my DMs, on my feed. And so like I've been to, maybe 2 to 3 events a year for the last 4 years in my business. So let's say I meet 10 to 20 people at those events. Well, then they follow me, then they hear about me. And it just is a really great way for people to find out about you without having to feel like they have to just like fork over $100 million, right away. And I believe, it creates a connection that wasn't possible it was possible when I first started my business, but I think that, companies now who don't pay attention to like their social media DMs, like we were joking before this, like we both used to work in social media, but I don't want to answer other people's DMs. Like I just want to answer mine. So that's why I stopped doing the social media consulting work. But I just think that having a presence, at least on one network where you're going to be, is really a smart move if you want to create connections and, be where your potential audience and community could be.
So you mentioned going to and attending different events. So are you an avid event attender, and have they helped you to branch out and kind of meet new people?
Yes. So I don't actually go to a lot of events because I live in Iowa and it's tricky to travel out of Iowa. But every year I've been to California for either events that are in paid programs that I belong to, or I've gone to, let's say, some copywriting events, and I've gone to a coaching event, and I've been to different masterminds that I've helped organize. So every time you go to these types of events, you're meeting people who are in the same space as you. Like I work from home, and most of my friends from high school like work a 9 to 5, so they don't speak my language. They don't care about conversion design. They don't want to know what my opt-in page rate is. It's very boring and, to them. And so it's really great to just have connections, especially with people that, understand what you're doing and can grow along with you, and even refer clients to you, have you on their podcast and stuff like that. So yes, I believe in going to events. I like to, if you're shy like me, like I'm very extroverted, but I don't like to even go to the grocery store by myself. So bring a friend that you can go and hang out with who knows people and can kind of help you get to know people, and you can help them get to know people, and so forth.
For sure. So when you were starting Melissa Burkheimer Studios, how did you know that you had the right business idea?
I didn't. I just wanted to get paid to be creative. No, like that's not a joke. But again, I wasn't like looking to, and I need to preface this with say that I'm in a marriage where my husband has a great job. So his salary has, for the most part, been like the money that we use to pay all of our bills. So I've been very lucky in that fact. I don't like to mislead people because I think that that's something people don't often share about their journey. But my role in the beginning was just like to work a few hours a week, maybe 20 hours a week, and make a little bit of money and take my kids to and from school and then be there for all their sports and stuff that they had. It looks different now because we don't have any sports, and I have a kid who's not in high school anymore. But I've had a lot of ideas that have failed. I've had a lot of ideas that have had success, but not necessarily the results that I wanted. And that's where you got to put on your big girl panties and just, go with it.
For sure. And you kind of talk about the power of outsourcing and systems and processes. So what is the importance of like having a good team around you, and how did you build your team?
So I think the importance of having a good team is really not necessarily about the skills, but about the work ethic and like how, like, can they own a task or can they operate a task? And I think that's the first thing you have to decide if you're going to hire someone. Is this, like, right now I own all of the tasks in my business and I have people who do things. By mid 2021, I want to completely change that and take a lot of the stuff I'm doing off of my plate, but I'm not really to that point yet. And I forgot the other part of your question.
Oh yeah, and how did you like build your team?
Oh, how did I build my team? So all of my team is contractors. So like they come in by the project. And so, for example, the gal who writes my podcast show notes, I've also been teaching some college classes for the last year and a half because I felt like if I was going to be selling courses, I should probably learn how to be a really good teacher. So I've been doing that. So she was one of my students. The gal, I have someone who also helps me with like my course materials, and she was one of my students. She actually has taught college classes too. I have a couple of designers. I've met them inside of my community. And so I have one I work with for my sales pages. I have some I work with just like on designs for my own business, or like when a random project comes up. Like earlier this year, I did like an Instagram feed graphic and book cover for a friend who was launching a book. And those are, I don't usually take on those types of projects. I primarily just stick with sales pages, but that was one that had come up and she was a friend. So I said yes.
For sure. So you mentioned earlier when you started your business, like there was some, I guess, some results that you wanted specific results, but you weren't getting them. So can you remember any like specific mistakes that you made that you wish you could have avoided, or any potholes that you faced that you could help the next person out with to avoid those same mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very naive person. Like I see the good in everybody, and I kind of wish sometimes I had like that little devil on my shoulder kind of telling me, oh no, not this person, that person's gonna like take your money and you might not see it, you know what I mean? They might take it and run. Or so listening to your intuition is one. Another thing that I have done is I need to give myself more time when I'm doing my own launches, because when you're managing like a multi 6 and 7 figure promotion, it's different than when you're someone like me who has built her business based off of one-on-one work for the last, 5 to 7 years, and then you want to start launching and you have no audience. So I wish I would have been a little bit more patient with myself, because every single time, almost every time I launched something, I made money, but I felt like for the place I was at in business, I should have made more, which now looking back, like that was a really, really great lesson for me to learn. Like, oh my gosh, I did a launch and people bought from me and people are excited to learn from me, and I'm actually going to help them make a difference in their life.
For sure. So what would you say are like some of your favorite things about being an entrepreneur?
I love the freedom and flexibility that it gives me. I like some mornings I sleep in until 10 because I don't have to get up early, but some mornings I get up at 7. I love that I can create something that's mine. I've been watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and just kind of getting caught up on everything they've done. Because I mean, of course I know who they are, but I don't really know their journey. And Kim, when she was starting her makeup line, said, it's different when you are a licensee, because then you are just endorsing the products and co-creating. But when you have something that's your own, I really, really like that. So I'm kind of working towards, I just got my first like license deal for Conversion Design School. So I'm looking at doing more of those things so that I can help like bring what I'm doing to a bigger scale and help reach more people.
For sure. And what does that mean, like a license deal?
So I was really confused. I didn't know what that meant either. So there is someone I know who has created a course platform, and the difference between their course platform and other course platforms is that they actually vet their instructors. So I can tell you the platform, it's called The Terrain. And I believe the domain is knowtheterrain.io. Like they literally launched like 2 weeks ago. And so the founder created the platform wanting, because she couldn't find a platform where there was any like gamification. She couldn't find like the things she would have wanted in a course platform. So licensing it means that this company now then has access to sell Conversion Design School, and then they keep a portion of the sales. Different licensing agreements work differently, and that's really my only one, so I can't really speak to that. But when Kim was talking, I think she was just talking about endorsing all the products that she had endorsed and marketed, and now she has like her own makeup line, which is hers. So I think that's the difference there.
No, that's pretty cool. That's very cool, actually. So what does like an average day for you look like, and how do you focus on staying productive?
So an average day for me is I get up and I make myself eggs every morning, because if I don't, then I get hungry 2 hours later and then I can't concentrate. And then I like to write down my goals. I wish I could say that like I'm really responsible and I do it every day, but I don't. And I write down my goals, and I get really specific. Like if I want a client to like a design project, I write that down. If I want to hit a certain financial amount for that month, or if I want to like manifest more podcast interviews, then I write that down. So I get really specific about it so that I'm clear. And then I kind of just take a look at like what I need to do. So like literally as we speak, I just finished like the offer details for something new that I'm creating. And it's taken me a really long time. It's the most painful part of launching for me because like I have to get things to be clear. Like I can design your sales page, but creating my own offers, you know. So anyway, so that's been very hard for me to get the work done because I have to be creative and you have to be in the right mindset. So, I have to publish my podcast every week. I send emails to my newsletter every week. I post on Instagram at least 3 times a week. And when I'm working on client projects, then I'm fitting that work in, in between all of that as well. So right now I'm in a low launch mode, which means I'm going to be promoting my new offer really soon. And so tomorrow I have a meeting with a copywriter and I have a meeting with my mindset coach. And then I have another mentor who I'm in her program. So I'm in these different things to get feedback from people to help me fast track my success, my mindset, my systems, like all the things. So that's kind of, I know that wasn't really a direct answer, but it's pretty laid back. I try not to sit down. I can't sit down for more than like 45 minutes or I get bored. So I have to go up and get some tea or get a snack or just like go for a walk when it's warm. I go outside and go for a walk or I'll go swimming because we have a pool.
For sure. So like a lot of people that I've interviewed, the thing that they have in common is they have business coaches and mentors of some sort. So like what benefits do you personally get from your mentors and business coaches, and what factors have they played in your life?
So the business mentors I have are very specific. I have one who helps me with my systems. So like I have a friend who I should probably like introduce you to have her on your podcast. I don't know if she does stuff like that, but I can see. And she's like, I'm good at systems, but she's me on like times 10. So I want to take what she's doing and make it even better. So I'm in her, I was doing some coaching with her. We actually used to work on launches together a few years ago. So she helps with like my systems and she can review anything I want to give her, but she's got a lot of like background in the launch world. So it's nice to be able to bounce those ideas off of her. I have another mentor who helps me with my offers and like the marketing. So like my emails that I send to my list every week don't go out until she like gives them like an A+ or at least a B. And then I have another program that I'm in where it's a messaging program. And so I'm not quite through with that work, but each one has a very specific thing they help me with where like I'm good at those things, but they are great at those things. So I want to be great. So I brought people in. And that was like the biggest thing I did like at the end of 2019, I believe. And I'll continue to do just because it helps me. Like, again, I work, my husband's a web developer. My 14-year-old doesn't care about online marketing. He cares about 2K. So like, it's nice to be able to just like Vox a friend or have someone. And I have a lot of friends in the business space who are very successful. So I consider them like my mentors too, although it's not in a paid capacity.
For sure. So what would you say is like the single most important reason for your success?
I didn't give up when I wanted to, many times when I wanted to.
And that kind of leads me like right into the next question. So can you recall a specific time where you had a fight or flight moment in your business journey?
I'm on it right now. Literally, yeah, because 2020 for me, like I spent the first half of the year teaching like a full-time college load, like tripling my audience, doing pitch-free webinars every week almost. And then the summer I was supposed to launch and there was a lot of stuff happening in the online space and in our world. And I decided it wasn't the appropriate time for me to be selling something. It was early June. And for me, that was, the whole thing was just kind of a lot. And then my little sister was also diagnosed with breast cancer last year. My dad has some sicknesses he's had to deal with. So because she's sick, I'm like helping manage his care and his life. So it's just been a lot. So I had to kind of really look at like everything that I've been doing and kind of like scratch it all. Like I'm not scratching on my offers, but I'm kind of just starting over with this new offer that will help me build wealth for the longevity of my business versus just only offering a one-on-one service where I get paid one time and there's no consistency there. So now I say that I'm in the fight or flight mode because I really want this to work. I know it can work. I know that there's possibility, but not doing that launch in June was like the best decision I ever made because it allowed me to slow down. But then I also didn't take on clients because I had planned on launching, So that's kind of the reality. It's the reality of having a business. There's you win some and you lose some. It's kind of a long-term game.
For sure. So who do you look up to for inspiration and why?
I look up to, I don't know, I like to look at people like Jennifer Lopez. Like, look at how much she is doing, and she is just getting started. I like to look at people like women, specifically women of color, because I think that it's hard to relate when there's not a lot of people who look like me who have been in my space. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Jennifer Lopez is someone I really love. Mariah Carey, but I love her music. So that's it.
For sure. So how do you define success as an entrepreneur?
I define success as being able to decide that I want to work today, decide that I want to earn X number of dollars, and then creating a plan to make that happen, and then seeing what happens and pray that it happens. I'm not just praying that it happens, but I'm praying that it happens, and I'm taking really specific actions to help me get there.
For sure. So how would you like for people to remember you and your company?
Oh, I just want people to remember my company as people who, I don't want to just be someone who creates pretty things. I want to create designs and help people with their business so that they can do the same thing that I've been able to do and get freedom, and not just freedom in like their schedule, but like freedom in where they work or where they live or what they create in their business and like all the things.
For sure. For sure. So what does the future of Melissa Burkheimer Studios look like?
The future of Melissa Burkheimer Studios looks like, honestly, I would love to have like a little mini agency. I've played with the idea of doing an agency back in 2016, but I want to kind of bring that back. I'm starting later next year. I have one evergreen offer called Launch Celebrity, which is the one I'm working on now that I am working with my students in consistently. Conversion Design School is something that will probably be sold again next year. And that's the program I want to start licensing out. And I eventually would love to have, this is completely random and I'm not even wearing makeup, but I want to create my own makeup line someday too.
Okay, so are you really into makeup?
Yeah. No, not at all. I don't know much about it. But I know that there's potential in product-based businesses, so I want to like get a lot of experience in the beauty industry and learn more about it because like I'm not 40 yet, but I'm almost there, so I need to start. I've started to do things like actually properly wash my face and use all the creams and the moisturizers that people use. So no, I don't know much about makeup at all, but I think it would be something really fun to do.
For sure, for sure. And so at the end of every podcast, we like to play a rapid fire question game where we ask 3 questions. So does that sound like something you'll be interested in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
For sure. So question number 1, where's your favorite place to travel?
My favorite, Southern California.
Why is that?
Because it's beautiful and it's abundant, and the Malibu area specifically, and there's no traffic over there. I mean, there is traffic over there, but every time we've been there, it's just like beautiful and rich, and there's sunshine, the sky is blue.
For sure. So question number 2, what song explains your life the most?
What song explains my life the most? Oh, I didn't know about this question. What's the Beyonce song? I Was Here. That's like kind of my vibe right now.
All right, I'm gonna have to go check that one out.
Yeah.
And the last question is, what's an amazing thing that you did that no one was around to see?
I joined the board of the youth football program here for the next generation of kids in my school district, so that they could actually have a league. Like in context, all of the suburban schools in my area have like very successful programs, and our program is like hurting a little bit. So I joined the board, even though my son is not in that league anymore. He'll play for the school to try to like get it up and running, help them with a little bit of digital marketing and just like recruitment. I mean, of course, like I joined this last year and we didn't have football this year, but we were able to offer a boot camp for like 25 students who then wouldn't have had the opportunity to do anything. So I did that. And no, I don't know anything about football either. So
Nice, giving back to the community.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much. I had a great conversation. And could you let people know about your website one more time for us?
Yeah, my website is melissaburkheimer.com and my podcast website is thedesignbusinessshow.com.
That's awesome. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for stopping by.
All right. Thank you for having me.